So again, welcome to our Community of Practice meeting for Education Fieldwork. My name is Megan Kaplinski from Long Beach City College. I'd like to introduce our Community of Practice work group members. So Shannon.
Hello everyone, Shannon Turman, West Hills College Lemoore, education instructor and longtime TPP partner. We're looking forward to sharing the information we have for you all today. So thank you for being here.
Go ahead, Renee.
Hi everybody, my name is Renee Marshall and I am looking exceptionally red on camera today. I got a little sun, so you can tell for sure. Happy to be here supporting teacher preparation and EDU in what we do. I'm a consultant and I work for different TPPs within our group. I also support K-12 and some education nonprofits. So happy to be here today and happy to be working with the education community of practice.
Michael, you're on mute.
Hi, I'm Michael Wickert from Southwestern Community College, and I work with bilingual education, the debrief program with San Diego State, San Diego City, San Diego Mesa colleges, and I help run the liberal studies program down here. And I just saw somebody's from Madera Community College, where my wife is from. So, hey, somebody from Madera, people from the Valley, cool.
I'm not sure if our other members are on yet. We also have Gina and Kim. And
Kim is on. Kim, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. How's everyone doing? My name is Kim Barker. I am from Antelope Valley College. I am a full-time assistant professor in child and family education and also a child and family advocate. So it's been wonderful being a part of this process and learning so much from these incredible people, incredible professionals, and I'm very, very proud and happy to be here.
I see Gina on, and I'm not sure if Kathleen is on, but Gina, can you do an introduction?
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Gina Peterson over at College of the Canyons, adjunct faculty for early childhood ed and lead for the teacher preparation program. Happy to be here and glad that you all joined us today.
So we also want to get to know everyone who's joined us here for this Zoom. So please do introduce yourself in the chat and remember that Shannon is going to be placing folks into the 3 breakout rooms during the first part of this presentation because Zoom updated and undid all our pre-plans. So today we're going to get started with Renee Marshall sharing some updates, so the Stronger Together CDE updates as well as some CSU updates. Then we're going to highlight 3 scenarios for fieldwork opportunities. We have consolidated a list of about 5 fieldwork scenarios for the fall to share with you after this meeting, which will be updated on our CCC TPP website, but we're going to dive deeper into 3. Then we're going to break out into those 3 rooms that you should put in the chat, please. And that way we can have some discussion and get ideas from each other. And then we will be closing with some cool upcoming events. So we're going to go ahead and hand this over. Renee, could you start with your Stronger Together and other updates?
Absolutely. Are we able to share? Can we go to next slide, please?
Yes, thank you.
Or do you want to share screen and then I can, because I'm not going to be able to do live links. So do you mind sharing screen and then I can pop up mine? Please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go right ahead. Oh, hold on. It didn't stop share.
Okay. And the first thing I want to call everybody's attention to today actually is something that came out really recently from CDC. Now, a lot of us are looking at the Stronger Together guidelines from California Department of Education. And we have included that within the slideshow today. So please definitely you want to check that out. I do want to let you know that within the Stronger Together document, those are guidelines and recommendations. They are not mandates. I want to also let you know that things are rapidly changing. I'm assuming all of you are online and checking the news out and everything. So things are rapidly changing. Yesterday, our president says he wants all schools open. We had some districts in California officially call it yesterday that they will be 100% online. Things are really, really, really active right now. So my best word of advice would be, please be watching the California Department of Ed. They are incredibly active on their social media platforms. For those of you that are on either Facebook or Instagram or any other platform, I would highly suggest that you subscribe to their communication that way. They are posting on their website regularly because things are changing, but it is so fast moving and changing. I actually think it'd be more strategic to be directly connected to the social media platforms right now. But I do want to call your attention to CDC, and they put out the consideration for K-12 schools readiness and planning tool just a few days ago. Now with this document I have up, we have the link shared on the slides for you. I'm not going to get into all the specifics of this, but I am just going to quickly scan it with you. As you can see, for those of you who haven't seen this yet, it's totally overwhelming. What they are asking our schools to do is an overwhelming situation. Now, no blame. I'm not going to get into the politics of all this and whatnot. I am here because I want us to have healthy classrooms where our students can engage in fieldwork. That is the purpose for today. Will we have those in fall? I mean, I'm going to be honest. My kids are due to go to school in a month and 2 days from today. Will you be sending your children? It's a crazy time. So here's what I want to say with this. Be looking at all these documents that we're sharing with you. We are trying to share with you the most up-to-date information that's coming out from Department of Education, from health, from all these agencies that will directly impact what happens in our fieldwork classes. But also, please know that what you read today may not be the same on Monday. At any point, you need to be listening for the different mandates that are coming down. In addition to following Department of Education on their social media platforms, I highly, highly suggest that you sign up to follow our governor. Whether you like him or not, again, I'm not trying to get too political about this. He is going to be somebody who will be leading us and has been leading us in terms of how we move forward and what California looks like. So I don't mean to sound like an alarmist. I really don't. We're just in this whole different situation and this whole different time right now. And I understand why our schools are trying to limit the amount of people that are in them. I get it. I want to share with you in my early childhood hat, I was talking with a friend of mine who's been running a center for 26 years. And we were talking about practicum students yesterday. And she said to me, Renee, why would I have practicum students when I can't even allow parents into my center anymore? So we're trying to be proactive with coming up with all these ideas and talking with our CSU partners and making sure we're aligned for moving forward. But please know that this is moving. This is identifying and developing in this moment. And so we all need to stay on top of these documents that are coming out. And we will try our best to share them with you as a community of practice. But please know that we're not like the definite word on this because it is going really, really quickly. So with this, if you have not checked out this document, you want to print it. It's exactly like the Stronger Together document from CDE. You want to print it and get to know it, and then literally be checking their sites weekly or daily to see what other updates are coming out. I've got to be really honest. I'm curious how many of our school districts are going to be face-to-face. I know 2 weeks ago, we were all very optimistic about approaching a blended model, but after the spike that we've seen now, I don't know. And I'm just being honest with everybody. I'm a mom of twins that are going to start high school or supposed to start, at a brand new high school in a month and 2 days. And I don't know what's going to happen for us. So anyways, as we are looking into this, just keep on this for sure. And I want to share something else with you now. So let me pull up, excuse me. Sorry, I've got this other thing up real quick. And let me stop sharing that. Okay, now here's the great news. The great news is we have some fantastic partners in our CSUs, and they are here to help us along this way. We had the opportunity to meet with Marquita earlier this week. She is one of the vice chancellors of the CSU system, and she specializes in education and teacher preparation. We will be sending this out to everyone. so that everybody has a copy of this. But this is a memorandum that came out at the end of June that's specifically talking about experiential learning and ensuring that our students will continue to have the experiences they need in order to get the degrees and to make the progress that they need within their programs. So it specifically is talking about how do we keep people enrolled in this virtual learning environment and what does it look like. We want to make sure that the students are safe in what they do. We also need to make sure that the campuses are safe. And so we will share this with you so you have this exact document, but I also would like to share with you a sample. Okay, actually just hold on one second. Thank you for your patience while I'm pulling up multiple documents. Okay, so this is another thing that was shared with us from Marquita and the CSU team. Is it's an example of the type of COVID release that they're having this year in order to ensure that the campus is safe with what is going on. So we will also share this with everybody as well. We are putting it up on the CCC TPP website. So that way, if you are looking to, how do I draft something like this with my campus? How do I ensure that my campus and my students are safe? What do I bring to my risk management department? You know, this will be a sample of what you can share and just an example of what's happening in the CSUs right now. Now, I want to also let you know, we had some very specific questions for Marquita that we are still waiting to get some more news about. Please know that once we have answers, we will share them with you. One example is, and we tried to get really specific because we want to make sure that we're aligning as much as possible and that the answers that we can get can go across our campuses. And so one example was there was a community college that was looking at having their students do the field work with their K-12 partners, but working specifically with para-educators and small groups of children in a distance learning or, you know, a Zoom setting or a social platform of some sort. Well, one of the challenges is the class, in the way that the course is written, it says that you will be working with a credentialed teacher. And all of us on the line know that para-educators have a huge amount of experience, but to be a para-educator, you don't need to have a degree. You don't need to have a credential. The expectations in terms of the education preparation for that person is significantly different. It could be a 5-year difference of college. And so we need to make sure that if we are sending our students, our fieldwork students with a para to work with them in a small group remotely in fall, that still is going to count, or that watching videos with the professor will count, or however we're defining those hours of field work and what they look like. So I'm happy to say that Marquita is really open to talking about this, and we presented her with our questions and she came back with some answers already and said she would follow up with the rest of them. So CSU communication is open right now, and if anybody has any questions that you'd like us to ask our CSU partners, please feel free to put them in the chat box. We will capture those at the end of the meeting today, and we will make sure that we share them with our CSU partners. Shannon, Megan, was there anything else I should add to that?
Shannon can go ahead and share the slides, and you can see if there's anything that you'd like to add from those that you. Great.
I basically, on the slides too, I took pieces of the document and just put it in, and then I also, so for this slide here, the first link is the CDC that I pulled up today that you should absolutely read if you have not read that yet. Stronger Together are the guidelines that were released at the beginning of June, and we discussed those. Excellent. I see all the links going in the chat box right now. That's perfect. There's also a little Stronger Together intro video. If you've already read the document, you don't need the video, but if you haven't read the document, then check out the video. I also do want to point out that CDE has a huge amount of webinars, and they're all recorded. They're all on their site. They can be accessed at any time. I think there's probably at least 50 different webinars there. So if you haven't had a check to check those out, please go and check them out. They're worthwhile. Oh, I love this. Also on the chat, somebody said, advice from a K-12 superintendent. The news changes daily, weekly. We will not make a decision prior to the week of July 20th to 24th on whether to be online, in person, or hybrid. Okay, can we go to the next slide?
Yeah, sorry, I'm starting to get there.
It's all good. Okay, now this next couple pieces, I think there's 3 slides here. This is the exact memo that I had pulled up as a memo. So we will send that to you in the memo format, but it's just reiterated on the slides here. So we can go beyond those. We can keep going. Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, so now we're ready for the portion where we're going to hear from 3 community college teacher education programs about their potential scenario that they're planning on today, which of course is fluid and may soon change. So we've put these tentative ideas into a document that will be uploaded to the CCC TPP website after this meeting. So we're going to go ahead to the next slide to start with our first presenter, who's going to explain all about their fall plans to date. So that's back to Shannon.
Is that me?
Yes.
I have College of the
Oh,
Canyons.
sorry, it's in different order. Okay, so we're starting with Michael then.
Okay, hi. Hello, I'm Michael Mansfield. I'm from College of the Canyons in Valencia, California. So regarding our plans for the fall, we are going to be doing synchronous class sessions and with some asynchronous work on the side. We're also planning on our observations being online with a combination of recorded sessions and live sessions when available. Like you said, and I'm echoing a lot of people that have already spoken, Renee especially, everything's in flux right now. And as far as getting word from our local school districts as far as their plans are concerned, it's really kind of hard to hammer out like an MOU with them to have our students sit in on their Zoom sessions or something if they're online. I don't know of one school district off the top of my head that's allowing anybody non-essential on campus to do any kind of observation whatsoever. So it looks like our students are pretty much stuck with online observations. So we decided to basically jump in and start swimming. We're going to start teaching students how to teach online as if they were teaching in the fall, what it's like to be a teacher now. So we are going to be observing together. I'm going to be leading the students in their observations, at least to kind of show them how to do it. We're going to be watching a few videos and discussing certain specific things, so we have something to look at. Our students usually do a observation journal, but that's been a lot more fleshed out because of this. So they'll be looking for more specific things as they go through these case study videos and observations. But I'm also taking advantage of the fact that we're online in that we have easier access to things like board meetings and PTA meetings. We have easier access to professionals in the field and actually have them join our class as guest speakers. So I have teachers, principals, counselors, paraprofessionals. I'm even working on getting a board member to sit in and talk and answer questions. So we're kind of just really using the format to our advantage there. But as far as the observations are concerned, we're using a combination of recorded sessions and also if a teacher is teaching on Zoom, we'll be able to have a couple of students drop in and kind of observe too. Our class, as a cumulative activity, usually has the students teach a sample lesson in class. Of course, everything changed when we went online, but now the students are going to be teaching a simple online class or online lesson to us. So like I said, we're going full tilt with the online teaching angle, and we're going to make that work for our kids. That's it.
Mike, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I'm curious, since you teach full-time K-12 during the day, will you use videos from your own classroom then?
Yes. So as far as recording students in the classroom are concerned, we do have some legal hoops that we need to jump through. Some students have no recording waivers that they filled out. So we have to make sure that we maintain their privacy when it comes to that and respect their guardian's wishes. But as far as recording myself in the classroom, I have no problem doing that. I've been doing that in the class when I have a student who's out long-term absence. We had a student who was in the hospital a few years ago, and they were able to participate in class remotely from the hospital. And we just, we figured out the Zoom thing a few years ago. And was able to have them participate that way remotely. So my comfort level is fine. I know a lot of my colleagues are too comfortable with it, but what that is going to look like, you know, in my own personal classroom, what that's going to look like on my own campus, I have ideas, but I can't like give anything concrete. You know, I went into the classroom and spaced everything out. So
I'm wondering if there's a way where we could tape faculty while they're teaching without taping the kids, but like you could hear when kids ask questions, or like where you could hear the kids but not see them, and somehow use that footage across campuses, like almost like a teacher YouTube channel where it's like real experiences that are happening, but there's no confidentiality issues because it's just the teacher and voices. So there's no, Mike, how do we make that happen? Can we get the Heart District to agree to it somehow?
I've been aware of a couple of districts that have had actual systems installed that allow teachers to do that remotely. And the camera is installed in the classroom and kind of fixed at a point where the teacher can stand and teach, record while they're simultaneously teaching, and have that be kind of live broadcast throughout. I think the majority of us are going to be streaming through, you know, whatever Chromebooks or iPads we have remotely. I know that I've got a device that actually tracks my location as I walk around a classroom. Again, navigating that 6-foot distance thing is going to be really challenging. You know, I'm a classroom teacher, and students need kind of that, like, somebody there next to them to kind of talk to them and advise them. So how we're going to navigate that and how we're going to deal with that, it's going to be a bit challenging. But yes, my intention is to record myself as I'm teaching. I think that's my district's plan to do that as well. We're going to have district-wide, half of the students attending on one day and half of the students attending on another, but we're expected to teach fluidly throughout the entire week. So we record and teach one half of the lesson to one section. The other section is watching from home. And then the other section comes in for their live portion of the lesson, but they get part 2 of the lesson live. And then the group that experienced part 1 are at home and learning remotely. So we're going to be using that regardless in our classrooms. But yeah, I know that there have been districts that have been making an investment in singular technology that allows them to do that. And I'm looking into it too.
Mm-hmm. There's some people in the chat that are asking about like not having kids in it, or like, okay, plan A, we are in a classroom and we are having meaningful engagement with children and teachers, and it's great. Mm-hmm. We need to have more than plan A, everybody. We're in a time that none of us could have predicted. So, and one thing that is essential is we need to find a way to ensure that our attitude moving forward is positive, because we don't want everybody to think they're getting a substandard education. That's not okay. We need this to say, this is our new reality for right now, and we're going to kick butt at it. We're going to be doing the best that we can. I also love the suggestion in the chat box where somebody says we can have a child wear a GoPro and sit in the front row. I think I may force my children to do that. But please know that we are all looking for innovative ways to find access to classrooms, to teachers, to fieldwork, to dialogue. I mean, we are looking for the access right now. We just don't have the answers yet, but we're working on it.
I definitely
like sharing this example. We really appreciate it.
Sure. I definitely recommend the swivel robots. Those are what we're using on our campus. Those are the ones that you put the iPad or the phone in the dock, and then it tracks you while you're moving around the room. So you have it's almost like having a camera person just kind of following you while you're teaching, sort of thing. We've got a couple of those for our site, and we're investing in those for our district. So
for those of you who are not familiar with the swivel, we actually talked about it a bit on the early childhood practicum community of practice a few weeks ago. And it's a very, very cost efficient way to videotape somebody in the classroom. I think, what is it, like $700, something like that? Links to the phone. It's very user friendly. So SWIVL, I believe, is how they spell swivel. Is that right, Mike?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been dropped in the chat box, so they can definitely, yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. So again, Shannon Turman here. So I'm going to cover kind of some of the same things that Michael just discussed in trying to be creative in finding solutions to support our students with their 45 hours. Yeah, I'm working with our districts right now. I already have MOUs in place. We're adding addendums constantly. I have another meeting with the HR director and 2 of the school districts that I work with in the next 2 weeks, trying to get the addendums up to date and through the board meeting in July. So we're looking at our students participating in their PLC meetings weekly, in any staff meetings. So when they're doing like the welcome back meetings at the beginning of the semester, whatever's being recorded, I'm trying to get access to those recordings of the teachers working together on those prep days. If they're having virtual meetings for the entire school staff, those are being recorded. I'm trying to get access to those types of things so our students can see the behind the scenes of a classroom with those credentialed teachers. Again, I ran a I ran a face-to-face program on our campus called Team Teach for quite a few years now. And every month we have a huddle and students come in and we feed them lunch and talk about what's going on in education. I have guest speakers. So I'm going to transition everything virtually this semester, and I'm really focusing on those specific guest speakers like Michael just mentioned. I have a lot of K-12 teaching friends that are willing to come in and participate at those. I'm also having my K-12 partners and teachers send me recordings of like their story and how they became a teacher, and utilizing those pieces and having students do reflections on some of those components. They're going to be doing their teacher interviews virtually, so I'll be working with our districts to schedule those through Zoom for my students to still participate in those interviews virtually. We'll continue to work with a wide variety of educational components, virtual activities. So many of our college students are super tech savvy and have a lot of background in online components, whereas some of our veteran teachers might not have so much background knowledge. So I'm working with our districts to pair up some of my students with those teachers to support them virtually and developing those online activities with those teachers so they can participate in that component as well. I think that's going to be a huge piece that we'll be able to really tap into. These teachers are so busy as it is trying to plan and prep and plan A through plan Z right now that some of those pieces might not be on the radar yet. So having my students help create some of those lessons and those activities and work with those teachers to make sure that they can have those experiences online and virtually together is a big piece that we're focusing on. I'm lucky in the aspect that our after school program for our main feeder runs through my district completely. So we hire all of our own education students to teach in the after school program. So we're going to be tapping into that piece, continually developing. We're hiring 6 new online or after school program teachers currently. So we're going to be working through those interview processes in the next couple weeks. So being able to continue to help students be placed in that realm is important. And we were kind of discussing a few things, and I didn't even think about the fact that I do use our Navy base. We are right next to the Naval Station in Lemoore. And with that opportunity comes a wide variety of mentoring options. So many students come into the base that are coming from different countries and really need help with extra components. So they'll be working with some of the teachers there to develop like different activities for English activities, writing activities, things like that to help them with those language pieces. So anything that we can think of to help our students, even if it's a lot of development on their part, we'll continue to do that. One of my addendums this semester that we had pushed through before the end of the semester with one of my districts was utilizing those videos that they already have. Like Michael was saying, he's recording in his classroom. I got approval to utilize from specific classrooms where students were allowed to be recorded, any lessons that were completed then, and I'm utilizing those. So they're still seeing a real K-12 classroom like in our district area. And so we're utilizing those videos as well. And then I saw in the chat, and I know Jennifer Paris chimed in there. Thank you, Jennifer, for creating that great document. And so we'll share that again. It's a Google Doc, and it's she's licensed it, attributed it, so we can all reuse and add and build there, and creating as many virtual lessons that we can find online to share there. So it'll be a mixture of all of these things combined and figuring out what the best solution would be for our students. But creativity is key, focusing on the fact that we need to not just complete those 45 hours, but that we're doing it with a K-12 setting with a credentialed teacher. So how far can we stretch this? We're going to try to do our best that we can to make that happen. And then I'm continuing to make sure that the colleges, the universities that my students transfer to, I'm in constant communication with them as well. So if I have a question about something that I'm trying to kind of push the envelope on, I'll shoot over an email real quick and say, hey, what do you think of this idea? You know, how can I make this work for that time frame? I will tell you that I'm still having my students track their 45 hours on their documentation sheets. And what I'm doing with that is, because all of it, I'm having everything submitted virtually through Canvas, I'm tracking those, and then I'm signing off on their 45 hours. If it's with another teacher or another assignment, they're getting an email signature from that teacher and uploading that documentation along with their sheet. So we have all of the documentation covered. I love that it's in Canvas. I can quickly pull it over into my OneDrive, save it there, and then have it virtually ready to go, and whenever I have to show documentation for a student. So hopefully that helps. I know I talked quickly, but we have a lot that we want to cover. So if you have any questions, just let me know along the way. And I'm going to cover MOUs again a little later in a breakout room. So we can definitely go over that. And Southwestern College.
Hello, everybody. This is Michael Wickert from Southwestern College. We're down here in Chula Vista. We're way down by the border. And if I look to I'm sitting outside. If I look to my left, I actually look at the hills of Tijuana. So we're in a very, an interesting scenario here. And so, we're doing some pretty interesting things. Originally, like we've heard from a couple people that 2 weeks ago or so, we thought, well, a hybrid model or some sort of a blended model is going to look really good. So originally we're thinking, hey, a combination of in-person and virtual field experience under the direct supervision of a credentialed teacher. I talked with our largest district, which is the Chula Vista Elementary School District that's here. And they said that if we get students completely cleared and they can get a district email, that they could go in on the Teams meetings and things like that, as long as they had a CTC clearance and such. So that sounded really, really promising. And then, you know, the world has taken a bit of a different turn in the last week or so. And so we're having to check some of those other things out. So we're still hoping that we're going to be able to have a little bit of in-person and virtual, because the original idea was that having them be able to be inside of the classroom with part of the students, they would then also be able to help do tutoring sessions virtually while in the classroom physically with the teacher, and being able to kind of bounce between working physically with students and then online with students. And that was sort of the vision that we were looking at and we were hoping was going to happen. But as we all know, minute by minute, things are changing. And I just got an update that the governor is speaking about the whole situation right now. So by the time this meeting finishes, everything could have changed again. So in preparation for that, we're looking at having students going to PTA, PTO meetings, school site council meetings, especially those who are going to be attached to charter schools that have the SSCs. And I've always encouraged my students to go take part or at least sit into staff meetings and observe IEP meetings if they're able to. And of course, this all goes, you know, very much by individual teachers and schools and situations, but I always have them ask if they can have permission to sit in on some of those meetings just as an observer. And even toward the end of the quarters, often to sit in on parent-teacher conferences, because I think it's really important for students to see where we have the difference between student-led conferences and teacher-led conferences and such. You know, those are all really important things. And then sitting in on grade level collaborations and GLP meetings. Right now with the virtual stuff, if we can get some students to get in and start getting placed in schools and working with teachers in summer, where some of our teachers are actually getting together and they can see some of the behind the scenes working of how they're actually figuring this out, how teachers and schools are trying to work with the curriculum and use their own brains and work under all these different parameters. I think it's going to be an absolutely wonderful experience for them to be able to see all of that. They may even have some ideas, as has been brought up by a couple people here, that our students are pretty tech savvy. And when they can go in and they can help some of our more veteran teachers, I hate to say older because I'm pushing 50 myself, but some of our more veteran teachers who might not be as comfortable with the technology, I think it's a great idea if they can come in and they can add these little words of wisdom. They might have ideas that will work for students, or considerations that teachers might not have thought about. Those are all real good things. It's also been mentioned, you know, doing interviews with teachers, administrators, staff, but also with parents and students. And I think this is an important thing. We really need to include the parent and student voices and have them sit down either face-to-face if it's allowable or virtually to have some really interesting interview sessions to find out what the parents and especially the kids, what are the kids actually thinking? What's going through their minds? And I think in all of this discussion, we have so much that's coming from the adults. And very few people are actually asking the children, what do you think? They're the ones going to be sitting in the classrooms with all their friends. They are the ones doing the homework. They're the ones going to be responsible for a lot of stuff. And almost nobody's asking the children. And I think that is a shortcoming in this whole process. And then another thing that we have, as I was saying, how we're down here by Tijuana, we're also starting to work with migrant education and transnational and undocumented student support services through the San Diego County Office of Education. One of the issues that Tijuana is finding is our current federal administration has a very strong stance on immigration and undocumented peoples. And Tijuana is having this massive influx of non-Spanish speaking, non-culturally Mexican people who are being deported and basically dropped at the border and have no idea how to navigate the Mexican school system. And so some of those coordinations, I think, are, especially regionally for us, is really, really important. That is another thing that nobody's talking about. Nobody's talking about what's happening to all these people who are getting picked up and then just dropped at the border and being left. And these are really often the children are American citizens, even if the parents are not. And now they're having to navigate this whole new system that they never intended or had no idea about. So I'm not going to go off on a political rant, but that is a consideration for our region especially. And then the other thing that we're talking with the County Office of Ed about is working with virtual distance learning schools, especially court schools, and through juvenile hall. Those are two other populations that almost nobody ever talks about. Nobody talks about court schools. Nobody talks about juvenile hall. And there's a lot of opportunities in there, and there's unfortunately far too many kids in those schools for a variety of situations, and they also deserve a little bit of attention. So we're starting to look at some of those people, the undocumented, the migrants, transnational students, court schools, juvenile hall, and things like that. So with that, I will stop because we are already almost at 12:45 and we have a lot to do today.
Yes,
so
and we did
much.
have some hands raised. Go ahead and let's share questions in the chat if you have one for Michael, but I do know that Sharon had a question.
Okay, I'm unmuting and I'll make it quick. I have a feeling that if the reason I didn't sign up for the MOU breakout room is that it just will stress me out, because the reality is that these things take time, and I am sure that for this fall there will be a vaccine before I get an MOU from a board and from this and that. So it's just like a given that you have to have an MOU, because
No.
I don't think most of us have that.
No, a lot of people don't have MOUs, and we're not trying to guilt anybody into having one. We, within TPP, we consider MOU part of a best practice. And we consider it a best practice because it safeguards our students and it safeguards our campus and it safeguards our program. But I mean, I've got to be honest, Sharon, when I was at Canyons, you know, I had one of my districts I had a partnership with for 15 years. You know what I mean? Before an official MOU was in place. And so it's not, please know we are not here to make anybody feel bad or to make any program feel less than or whatnot. But we shared MOUs as a best practice. And for those people who have them or who want to get one going, we want to be a resource. But if you don't have one, I hope I'm speaking okay on the behalf of the group here. We're not here to guilt you out. We're here to be a resource.
I mean, look, in Orange County, I remember last year in our coalition, I asked because there were a couple of districts that wanted it and they were getting confused with student teaching and with internships. But just for this volunteer stuff, you know, they need clean fingerprints and a TB test. So we did not do it because the bureaucracy is onerous and we're just part-timers actually. So, you know, I'm not going to have it for fall. I don't know if I'll ever have it, but I'm getting this idea that everyone has this and it's like a given and it really freaks me out.
Not everyone has one, Sharon. The only reason why we do bring this up again is some of the best practices, but it's not that you have to have an MOU in place. We're just offering that as an option looking further down the road as things continue to change constantly. It's just something, again, with best practices, it's an easier way to transition when there's changes that need to be made. So because I have an MOU in place with some districts currently, all I'm having to do is type up addendum components for those MOUs and they go directly to a board meeting because they've already been in place. So it's not necessary by any means. We're just trying
I'm all for it, but it's not going to be for fall. It's just
not at all.
Some great discussions happening in the chat box right now. I want to point out that somebody said some people are using their service learning program as kind of a vehicle here because service learning has got workman's CoP, it's got MOUs already established and whatnot. But it totally depends on your program. I also want to point out, we heard from Steve Bautista from ACTEP. And so he has a very important thing that he, and also Janice Perry from ACTEP have in the chat box. Please make sure to read over those and update. Also later on in our in our PowerPoint, we have the link to ACTEP. If you have not updated your membership yet or want more information about ACTEP, we have it there, but they are a group that helps to advocate for teacher preparation. And so anytime that notices come out from ACTEP, please make sure that you have that at the top of your radar. It's something that you can use where you're advocating and talking with your leadership on your campus or in your K-12 districts.
Okay, one quick question. I don't see there's a way to save. It's very important. I see what's there on the chat. Where do you see where you can save the chat? Is it only afterwards? Because I don't see the save button.
I've got the file link in mine right now, and so I'm wondering if only the host and co-host got it with the change of Zoom today with the update. Shannon and Megan, can you guys see it on yours?
Yes, and that is actually part of a security thing with Zoom. You can only the hosts have access to that.
So can you send it to us, and when it's all over, I see the file, but I don't see even like a select all, meaning, you know, I want to listen to all this, but there's a lot of information in the chat and I want to look at it afterwards. Is that like, can you send it to us?
Absolutely, Karen.
Yes.
We've been trying to capture the chat and then keep it, and then some of them we're putting up on the TPP website. But if you want it, we can absolutely get it to you.
It was just made public, so.
Oh, awesome.
I think you can now see it, Sharon. Go ahead and give it a shot.
No, I just see file. What does that mean?
Click on the file and then you can open the file and download it that way now.
Oh, shit.
Mike, also thank you for that good point. He put on the chat box, one thing I really like about CCC, TPP, and ACTEP is that we work together across systems to ensure that resources and ideas are shared. Both are really great to be part of. Absolutely. Thank you, Mike, for pointing that out.
All right. If there's no more questions directly to any of our three presenters who shared their scenarios that are tentative, but at this point created, then we're going to move to our breakout rooms where we really can get a good discussion going. So you should have, please, posted in the group chat the breakout room that you would like to be in because of the Zoom update the RSVP made didn't save. So we're going to go into breakout rooms for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to come back as a whole group so that we can start some good discussions and get contacts with each other. So we're going to go ahead and break out, and some of us will stay in the main room and others will be going to a link. Right, Shannon? Is that
Yes.
still how it works?
So I'll be opening the breakout rooms for you to accept your breakout room. If you chose number 2, you are going to stay here with Megan, and that way I don't have to shut off the recording. You'll continue here with her. And then I will open up the breakout rooms. My breakout room for MOUs is very small, so we will probably join you, Megan, back after just a few minutes. I'll just answer a few questions. If you do have a specific breakout room other than number 2, then let me know, because I will need to make sure I get you there. Okay, I will go ahead and open now. Thank you. If you're unassigned, it's okay. You're just going to stay where you're at.
Well, is to upload a file to the chat, but not get a copy.
Okay, Megan, as they're going over, you can go ahead and get started. Just don't choose your breakout room because I moved you.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so it looks like we have quite a lot of people staying in the main room. And so what I would like to do in this breakout is first kind of share takeaways from what you heard from the 3 examples, and also what barriers might there be. Janice Perry, president of ACTEP, did remind us about the CID requirement and how CSUs need us to have students observe with a credentialed teacher. So until the CSU and CTC kind of give us guidelines, we often need to stay with that for our CID course. But, and Janice, please correct me if I summarized that too quick or missed anything. But would anyone like to just jump in? We want to have a conversation. It ends up that this is quite a very big group. So if you do the raise your hand feature and I miss it, just state something in the chat. Michael is also here. So Michael, you and I are going to kind of help guide this discussion. So
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, does anyone want to share a takeaway, something that surprised you, something that you're already wondering about? I think you can all unmute, is that correct? Feel free to do so.
I can say something. If we do end up getting our students into the actual classrooms with students, I think it is going to be really important that we have some kind of liability agreement in case they do get sick. That really captured my attention that, wow, we probably really better do that. And it probably needs to be with both the elementary district and the college, right?
Anyone's free to respond. I know that the document that we're going to post to the CCCTPP website is the CSU's sample, which can be shared with your risk and contracts office, and then we can kind of seek guidance internally. My understanding when I initially asked that question to my college risk management office was, no, we don't need to change anything. But I reminded them, what if our student is virtual and is in a Zoom breakout session like this, but the teacher's in a different room? And they said, oh, we'll need a new MOU, plus your student will need a new email address to be part of our class, our Google Classroom. So, you know, I don't think we can get this, like I think Sharon said. Sharon, you're muted. Chime in. I know it will take forever. The vaccine might be ready before our MOU.
But you know what? I mean, I saw what happened in the spring is that in the beginning, all the students are kicked out and were really pissed off because they didn't do it nicely and this and that. But then I told my students to go back because all you could read in the paper was how these teachers and parents were having a horrible time with Zoom and this and that, and it was awful. And I still see it as it's really valuable. And I'm just, you know, I don't understand why it has to be such a big deal to go help out, because they're going to be remote. They're going to be half remote anyway. There's no one's going to go to school 5 days a week. So to make obstacles for them helping with remote, they need all the help they can get, the teachers, because, or it's even with parents. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we're worrying for nothing, because if a school, I mean, if a teacher can't let these students in to help, then there's really something wrong with this system. Don't you think?
Megan, can I chime in? This is Janice.
Please. And then Naomi raised her hand too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hi,
Oh no, I
hi,
just
Naomi.
see the Zoom notice.
She just popped on. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what you were talking about earlier, Megan, and the whole idea of an MOU or a liability agreement. I don't know how many of you already have MOUs with your local school districts for your students to participate in observations or volunteer or whatever. We were kind of forced to do that with our main feeder school district several years ago. And there's a hold harmless clause in that current MOU. So if you already have an MOU, you probably have a hold harmless clause in there, which will cover any concerns about a student contracting COVID or a student bringing COVID to any kind of an encounter should they have face-to-face interaction with students. So just make sure you go back and look at that MOU. And if you, I'm happy to share the MOU that I have with my local school district if anyone wants samples.
I do.
Thank you, Janice.
I thought I sent it to you, Sharon, already.
No, I never got it.
Oh.
And I didn't want to bother you. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Just so you know, I'm getting a few messages. If you're wanting to move rooms, I don't have that ability right now, but Shannon's going to come right back in, and she's a person that's moving people. So if you wanted to jump into a different room, her group's coming back here in just a few, and she can assist you. So we had a hand up earlier, but it's disappeared for me. Was it Naomi?
Yeah, it's me. Thank you.
Naomi.
Hi, I teach Education 101 and 201 at Compton College. I'm just going to make a couple predictions that first of all, I predict that elementary schools aren't going to let people come in the classrooms. But I also predict that they're going to figure out some kind of new volunteer guidelines, and we might be able to help them along that way for online, supplemental instruction kinds of things. And so I would imagine that our students might have to follow whatever those guidelines would be, which would also be fantastic in some ways because you don't need to have a TB test if someone's just going to be helping or observing in a Zoom room. So that's my little prediction and something I'm going to try and help our schools think about.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that I had wondered if my college would want us to still TB test and live scan, and they said, please don't adjust your program. Even if they're watching a video on YouTube, you still need to TB test and live scan. So I think it's a good question to go ask for, unless you would rather beg for forgiveness. No, I'm just kidding. I ran that through and that's what I found. So I think it's a case-by-case thing.
But one of the other things that's happening down here is families are being given an option to just sign up now for virtual learning for an entire school year.
Mm-hmm.
And if that happens across the state or in various districts, I think that might give us an opportunity now to start the conversations with those districts to see how we can get our students in there to work virtually with them. And as Megan said, getting the TB test and the CTC clearance and things like that are probably going to be really important. Of course, that adds into extra time and cost for getting our students through this process. But if they get the CTC clearance, it's good for 5 years. Once they go through and they get into doing their student teaching and things, maybe we see it or we can present it as an investment into their future as a teacher. And they incur the cost now instead of having to worry about it later when they transfer over to the university and cloud coursework and textbooks and things are much more expensive. And so maybe that's a positive spin on it. And then we can also, if we start working with the districts, there may even be possibly a chance that they may hire some more paraprofessionals to do this kind of work. And there's a potential that maybe some of these students will then get picked up, get hired to actually work with them because they've already shown that they know how to do some of this work. And then they can continue that work while they're going to school and, maybe work their way through this whole process until they get their credentials eventually.
That's a good point. I know Kathleen raised her hand, but I'll just add that my local school district already asked me, can we have even more students than your fieldwork students? How many can you give us? And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And they said, if we are you know, having elementary school Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Thursday, for example, that half the day will be teachers with group A, but group B will be with an aide. And then, you know, flip it. So they're going to be having aides. And so they said, not only do we think we'll be hiring college aides, but we will need all hands on deck. So I was like, can you pay for their live scan then? You know, right? So waiting for more information. Kathleen, you had raised your hand.
Hi, everybody. I just want to mention that I would advocate for keeping all the standards in place. It may seem silly to TB test when you're online, but most certainly with live scan clearance, you're also looking at criminal record activity, and there is a lot of concern on the part of parents for folks to have access to their kids online. And with online security and online appropriateness, I think it's in some ways even more important that folks are screened, because you have really access into their living rooms and their homes. And that access can continue past the school relationship. So I would really urge for continued fingerprinting clearance, continued criminal record clearance. And some folks may want to beef up, if they have a current contract that requires TB and health clearance, you may want to also beef up some of the language around computer security and online appropriate behavior, because having what we're predicting too is what Megan said, that folks need more one-on-one tutoring. Students are not going to get the help they need. They may be going to a child may be going to a student to get that math help or the English help. And so you may have more Zoom time, and just knowing what appropriate computer behavior is when dealing with a minor, it is important. So that may be something that folks want to add as part of their course training, is security, and mentioning cyberbullying, cyber stalking, just mentioning those things to our students who maybe have never thought about it. You know, they're communicating with peers. They don't realize that when you're communicating with a minor, it's very different. So
I agree.
That's awesome point. And Lori had her hand up, and I see Jen also does. So feel free to chime in. We're such good turn takers. I don't want to miss anyone.
I just had a question to clarify something that Kathleen had said, and just this idea of doing live scan for the education class, which we don't currently do for that class. We do live scan for our preschool practicum course. So then, and there's maybe just one or two students that transition over, that if they've taken some of our early childhood classes, they might also take the education class, but usually it's a very separate population. But my question would be is, if for those few students that maybe have already done live scan for preschool, they would have to then do it again for the elementary, because it's a different database, correct?
Yeah, and
yes.
I'll just answer that our education 150 orientation is not CID, because we have actually a 3-unit course that provides a field work for 90 hours. So we've actually enriched those hours. We're going to be re-looking at the orientation to ed course with the 45. We wanted to provide more hours, but our fieldwork courses require live scan with the district. It's been really a benefit though, because when folks get hired, they're already in the system. The district already has their prints, and they go straight to our the school district for those prints, and they're easily hired then. They already have a file. So it's really been an advantage that we've live scanned all of our fieldwork students.
And that's for the 90-hour class?
Yes, for working in a K-12 setting.
Okay.
ECE, of course, has even more requirements.
Yeah.
And licensing, you know, I mean, all, you know, assigning to the center, it's even more complicated. But those do not translate. You can't move those prints. The only time we can move the prints is if it's a school district preschool. Any other time they're not movable. You have to do it all over again. So, yeah.
Jen?
Thank you.
One of the questions I know I'm going to get, because I have lots of my students last semester were parents, do you think that if parents are watching their own children on a Zoom meeting, would that count as observation hours if the teacher signs off on it? Because I know that'll be a question I get, because I had several of my students who were parents and trying to teach their kids and take my class at the same time in the spring. And I don't know if that would count or if that would be okay, or what do you guys think?
I see Kathleen thumbs up.
Okay, agreed.
We counted it. We counted it this spring. When they went to online,
Janice has her hand up.
yeah, we counted it. As long as they get a teacher to sign off that they were.
All right, thank you.
Janice?
Yeah, I would agree with Kathleen, as long as they have a teacher that they're observing, sign their log that said that they were online live watching the teacher do their instructional methods. I do think, though, a blend of that with possible video observations might be a good balance, because you're not really seeing all the classroom management techniques that typically our students will need to employ when they become student teachers and credentialed teachers, when they're just watching a Zoom live. There are unique, probably behavioral management kinds of things that the teachers are doing online, but it's not the same. It's not exactly what our students are supposed to be getting.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I would throw in there too, is if they're going to do that, if there's a way for them to still spend some time with a different teacher in a different environment, so they can do a little bit of compare and contrast, and just to see how some of the different modes and delivery modes and things are going to work out. And then as they're in there, like Janice brought up about things like classroom management, maybe have them include some sort of an interview with that teacher about what kind of things went on behind the scenes, the preparation, considerations, things like that. I mean, I know in my classes, I have them do a portfolio with a bunch of reflection journals, and they're really interesting to read, and I have them turn them in segments of 5 throughout. There's 15 that they do, and so they do 5 at the like say by week, 5 by week 10, and then the last 5 before the end of the semester. So you can kind of see what they're doing, and they can also see the progress and their understanding of what's going on, because we really want to make sure that they're gaining some understanding about what's happening in the classroom through those observations. If they're just helping and they're kind of passive, but they're not really engaged in the who, what, when, where, why, and how, then I don't know if it's as effective. I mean, it'll count for the hours, and in the circumstance, I think it's really valuable that we make those kinds of considerations. But we also want them to really understand, do some of that metacognitive work on what it is they're seeing and why it's happening. So
I would agree with what you just said in terms of if it's a parent observing their own child's classroom, to have an experience with another teacher so that they can remain objective. I think that, we form relationships with our children's teachers, and as a parent, we're going to be maybe protective of how my child is interacting or not interacting, or how that teacher's not interacting with my child. So to have that comparison, I think would be really valuable to do as well.
Pardon me. Go ahead, Monica.
I just was wondering, are we going to run into confidentiality issues with Zoom and having children's the children's faces up on our students' screens?
I think that's part of the need for the MOU as a best practice, so that students are continuing to get those background checks, and it's required, and then they have that maybe a waiver disclosing what they have.
So it's part of the MOU then, because it is really a screenshot of children's faces and screenshot.
If you don't have an MOU, could it be something similar to maybe what we do in our preschool classes, where parents just sign off saying, yes, I agree to have my child observed, and I understand that their faces will be able to be seen through the virtual classrooms, whatever platform that might be, and that the students agree to that they won't take any screenshots of the children, that when they're talking about the children, that they are not they're not speaking about these children in other contexts. We have something, I'll see if I can find it, for our preschool kids. Monica, if you want to
Okay.
Put it your email address or something in the chat, then I can see if I can find that.
Yeah,
I
it
know
worries me a
for-
little bit to have the name there, you know, the child's full name.
For my program, we refer to our Fieldwork Handbook, which is modeled after Cal State Long Beach's Fieldwork Handbook with their permission. And it talks about you're not a student's friend, you can't do social media, you can't take pictures. So we would probably modify our Fieldwork Handbook for COVID and virtual stuff. And our MOU does mention the Fieldwork Handbook in it. So we can update it, and it says, you know, guidelines for students. I personally have a waiver given to me by my college risk services, and students sign off on that waiver as well, which I'm still unclear if we have to change it for COVID. They said no, but now with Cal State's one that we have shared with you today that we'll link to the website, I may go back to them and say, are you sure you don't want to modify it for COVID? But we do that in our class. I'm not sure about the parents needing to sign off. That would be a question to your K-12 district, I would guess. But on your end, if you're the program coordinator, lead, et cetera, teacher of the fieldwork class, I'm sure you could do something like the Fieldwork Handbook with all those guidelines, and the students sign off and they understand. In my students' case, we say you may be asked to not complete your fieldwork if you violate this, so that they know they're not guaranteed to finish the 45 hours. They have to follow the standards by the district and the college district as well. Does anyone else have anything to share about how you handle this type of concern, or how you plan to?
I can't share that, but I wanted to ask a question of Michael or anyone. So the 45 hours, I know that in the past it was in the classroom, but now we get to determine what the 45 hours are. So is just the instructor going to make the determination of what counts as 45 or what doesn't count? Or how are you determining what counts as a 45 and what doesn't count as a 45?
Sam, this is Naomi. I'm actually, we're both at Compton. I'm actually working with CSU Long Beach. I have a meeting with them in a couple of weeks where we're talking through those kinds of details. I'd love to, you're welcome to attend too if you want.
Yes.
I know, I would love to, Naomi.
Well, may I just interject here, because
yes, please.
The education there's several issues around the 45 hours of field experience. One is the CID verification of the course, and that says credentialed teacher in an elementary class, public elementary classroom. So during this last semester, when we had to all go virtual kind of first third of the semester, CSU was very flexible, and we just needed to do what we can, and they were sort of waiving the field experience hours for that particular semester. What we don't have right now is a determination from CTC or CSU on how they want to see those hours. Are they going to be flexible? It could be up to your discretion, or does it need to be more specific? So it's obviously not going to be in person in a classroom, but someone could observe an elementary teacher teaching elementary students virtually or online. But for right now, until the CTC gives some direction in their August meeting, CSU is not, putting out a guidance to the field quite yet. So ACTEP is working really closely with them to try to get kind of a more general answer, and then I would take that back to the CID environment and try to come up with some kind of uniform statement about what will allow your campus to maintain their Education 200 CID designation, if that's what you want to do.
Thank you, Janice.
So stay tuned, please. We're all trying, you're all excellent and trying to keep on top of this and do the right thing. So have so many creative ideas. I just don't want us to get way off into, something that's not going to count for your students.
Absolutely. Christina and then Lori.
My question was answered. So we're all good. I had the same question as far as how is that working with the board meetings and all of that. And I love those ideas. And I'm just hoping that the CSUs are going to be as flexible and adjusting. So thank you.
Lori?
I'm good. I didn't have anything else.
Okay, I saw your hand up. So Rosemary.
Hi, everyone. I actually work at Cal Poly as a university supervisor for their student teachers. And I didn't work this last quarter, but I know that for actual student teaching hours, they were accepting professional development participation. So if they went to a webinar, they were also accepting the staff meetings and board meetings and PTO things, and then individual tutoring and the other things that we've been talking about. And so my rationale was, if Cal Poly was accepting that for actual student teacher contact hours, technically for the credential, that I offered those same opportunities. Actually, I didn't offer them. I was planning to offer them. I had asked my students to watch the video lessons, or to, if their teachers were okay with them coming back in the classroom once they switched over. So that's just one other thing that we should ask about. And I haven't gotten the update for what is acceptable for fall. I should be getting that soon, and I'm happy to share that. But my thought is, if professional development, like these webinars, there's so many great webinars out there for free right now. If those continue, and if those count for hours, those are really useful resources for our students if they're not going to actually get to be in classrooms. So that was it.
It's really great to hear. We have about 5 more minutes. Is there anyone that hasn't chimed in yet? Anyone that has a question or wants to bounce an idea off the group for what might count, for a problem you expect to have? Maybe we could brainstorm. I know there's so many unanswered questions, but don't want to miss anyone who hasn't shared or that has a further question.
Do you think guidance CSUs will come in time for us to really plan anything? We, at our institution, we don't have anyone running this. I do this class, the class that I teach is an overload. And then I have a colleague that does, teaches a math class that has a 5-hour requirement. So we don't have a lot of resources to figure anything out or a lot of connections, really. So I'm just worried that I'm going to start teaching the class and have no idea what I'm supposed to be requiring of students for the 45 hours.
Valerie,
absolutely. Janice is going to share.
What campus are you from, Valerie?
Shasta College up in Reading.
Shasta, okay, great. Yeah. I was doing a review of the whole state and all the community colleges to who has the Ed 200 CID and the ADTs, and Shasta popped up. So I'm sure you might feel a little isolated out there. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put my email address in the chat box again, and feel free to. I'm only working for a couple more weeks this summer, and then I'm back August 10th. But feel free to send me a question just to see if I can help a little bit. I do want to I think we all, like I said, had great ideas for our emergency semester, just like our college districts were able to do lots of various kinds of distance learning without the official distance ed approved addendums. We had emergency addendums, but I do believe it's going to be a little bit different, apparently, because we've had time to plan now for fall. So I would just be interested in doing some planning, but really wait to hear what is the CSU as a system, not individual campuses, saying about, and what is the CTC saying about what we could do. Can we do board meetings? Can we do count tutoring? Or do we have to, or is the CSU going to put themselves in a position of having to do certain things? And then how do we model that? So just wanted to put that out there.
Absolutely.
But I'm happy to help, particularly as president of ACTEP, that's really our job. We want to provide technical assistance to the field. So any of the campuses that have questions about their program or their classes, we're more than happy to help. So contact me, Valerie.
Great, thank you very much.
Rosemary and Lori.
Sorry, my hand was still up. I'll take it down. I'm good.
Okay, always just wanting to circle back to the hands up. Same, Lori. Yeah, I think that the theme is hold your ideas loosely, plan the best you can, and be ready to pivot. That's what I hear from everybody. I really appreciate Janice and Steve sharing that information from the CSU. A sneak preview, we're going to be ending our breakout in just a minute for the whole group. But one of the things we're going to share is that we're going to add some informal Friday, kind of like a coffee chat, Fieldwork Fridays coming up. And at one of them, Assistant Vice Chancellor, Ed Prep and Public School Programs, Marquita Greeno-Shire, who is going to be working more with ACTEP, is going to be our guest. So that's going to be shared in a minute. You can save the date or watch that later. Everybody in these groups are going to be emailed out the RSVP for those, so you won't miss it, but we'll tell you the dates. So Shannon, I think you're going to be bringing back the rooms in just a minute, and then we can see the others who are in the other room.
Does Jennifer
Any
still have a
final
question?
thoughts?
Jennifer has her hand up. I don't know if she still has a question.
Sure.
Just a quick question, and Janice might be able to even address this for our school in our district. But do you guys, anybody else think that districts would be willing to help in placing our students with teachers willing to take them on Zoom, assuming that we don't come back face to face? And how I know that, like, for us, it's going to be Orange Unified, and they usually help place our students, but would other districts maybe be willing to pair up our students? And I know they're not student teaching and this is just for observation, but would they be willing to take them on and let them sneak peek into some of these Zoom rooms or not? I just kind of want to see if others felt this might be something that could be accommodated or not.
Well, actually down in our school district in Chula Vista, that's exactly what they want. Okay. They want all of our students to be cleared and go through their HR department and then be placed.
Okay.
They do not want our students going and finding their old second grade teacher and saying, I want to go do my field experience hours with her, or going and finding somebody's aunt or somebody like that. They want them to be placed specifically that way. And they have, you know, FERPA issues and all sorts of liability issues. So they want the local district down here wants to place them. They want to take that out of our hands and they want to place them.
Yeah, and that's what we do also.
And
but
the
I
other
just
thing,
know about Zoom.
Yeah, well, and I think, you know, the other thing that, you know, the HR department said is, you know, this, when I met with them a few weeks ago, is they said, you know, really start telling your students that this is going to be like a semester-long job interview.
Yeah.
You know, but honestly, this, you know, they want to go into teaching. These teachers in our district, you know, we can become references for them eventually. When they do get through this, maybe they want to come back and be placed in our schools. But if they do a really terrible job, they're not showing up, they're not doing their responsibilities. When it comes to student teaching, maybe we're not going to want them.
Yeah.
You know, and things like that. But if they're really lights out, then that's exactly who we want. And then they can actively recruit them and help them get through the whole system until they get their credentials and they'll be able to come back to those districts. So they were pretty point blank about just let them know this is a semester-long job interview.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's an interesting way of potentially presenting it to your students.
We should always be telling them that, Mike.
Yeah.
I tell my students all the time, I'm like, the second you step on a campus, we are all watching you. And so you don't pull out your phone. There's certain things you do, or there's certain things you do, and there's certain things you don't do. And we are all watching you. It goes along with how do you dress on campus and what's the protocol for engaging with kids and families, you know?
Yes.
Yes, I think that we're all back in a big room together now so we can debrief. Renee, could you share out with Kim from your group and then have anyone kind of discuss what you went over?
I think Kim will attest, we had a really great discussion in our group. I mean, really, really great. Okay, we were focusing on EDU questions, concerns, and discussion. That's what we were focusing on. First of all, we talked about how we want to support EDU classes in a very specific way. One of the things that we talked about was there's so many of us that are on right now that have teaching credentials and have administrative credentials, and we could literally give talks where the students would be engaging with a credentialed teacher and or credentialed administrator. So why don't we do some sort of quick survey to find out when our EDU classes in fall are happening and create a program that maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks through ACTEP and or TPP, we have live streamed experts that hopefully we could get count towards fieldwork that would be ideally during the times where the classes are hopefully taking place. I mentioned that a lot of times since in K-12, they need to do their field work. You don't have the classes run from 8 a.m. to like 4 p.m. because that's field work. So a lot of times classes are in the evening and or Saturdays. So we may be able to accommodate some sort of program or some sort of resource for that. Kim really thought it was imperative that we could create something where it's a live stream that could be taped so people could access it either live and have Q&A time in addition to specific topics, or be able to access the information later and possibly even play it in a class or have it as an assignment. One of the cool things too that we might share is, if it's us that are putting it on, then we can even help to extend activities with the students where they can email or do interviews or whatnot afterwards. Another thing that we talked about is the idea of trying to find collaborative assignments that the students can engage in that will get them to investigate their community and the resources that are available in their community. And so almost like some sort of case study or a different way to kind of bring together some of the assignments. So there would be directly them, like maybe the assignment is they meet with the principal or they interview a credentialed teacher or a kind of another way to get that access. Something also that we talked about that I think is really important. We have partners who are on this call right now whose campuses have decided that they cannot run EDU fieldwork in fall. So we think it's imperative that we put on something or create something that says, if you're canceled in fall, how do we get you up and running for spring 2021, assuming it's still going to be virtual? We don't want this to be a situation where programs or classes get canceled for a semester, and then next thing you know, they're archived. You know what I mean? We don't want that. And so we need to find a way to preventatively avoid that. Another thing that we talked about, and this will be my last comment for the group, unless Kim would like to say any more, is I shared that, when we first created this idea of a community of practice, the idea was to like troubleshoot before we go into fall, to get everybody what they need in order to be successful for our students and our programs and us as, as faculty to be successful training this next generation of teachers. The more we talk about it, it seems like this needs to be ongoing. And so we talked about the idea of the COP continuing as some form, some resource. Maybe it's a quarterly meeting, maybe it's a monthly meeting, but just continuing this place where we have a chance to come together and try to figure out what's best for our students and our program in COVID and beyond. So Kim, was there anything beyond what I shared there or anything I missed?
Yes, Renee, I think it'd be wonderful if you would share your fantastic idea regarding the service learning projects.
Okay. Now this is a quick one, and now service learning, the piece bags like I'm doing, or no, never mind. Okay, sorry. I shared another thing too. One thing that we talked about also was a vehicle to do additional community-based building and understanding your community could be through service learning. We also talked about how like service learning, you've got these opportunities to do project-based learning that's related to the community, but then it's also safeguarded because you've got it cleared under your workman's comp. So it's kind of good on a couple different points. Kim, did I hit that correctly, or was there more you wanted to say?
That's exactly what I was talking about. Just the idea that we could really turn to the community to support us in this process too.
Mm-hmm. I know, I was saying, I wish there was, there's such a huge gap right now. Parents are so desperate to have tutors and to have teachers. And I wish there was a way that we could somehow take our field work and fill that gap. And I know we haven't vetted students and whatnot. So, but maybe if this extends longer than we're all anticipating, maybe we're going to have to start getting real creative.
And the parent boards, the comment regarding the parent boards was really wonderful too. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Kim.
Well, hey, Renee, maybe as a group, we can start talking to school boards about having some sort of district sanctioned tutoring services, virtual tutoring services for students and for families. And then if it's done under the direction of credentialed teachers, then maybe our students could go in and count some of that towards field work.
That's a great idea.
But I think it would have to be, they would have to be district sanctioned And so that way we meet all the requirements. And Janice Perry, she would know this better than anybody else probably about how and where that could potentially fall in. But since we're tossing around ideas.
Absolutely. Everything can be on the table right now. Also, I do want to chime in. Janice on the chat just mentioned that ACTEP has a statewide structure for COPs that can help facilitate these ideas. Please know we are open to any groups that want to lead this and want to move with us. This is about how do we get what the field needs. So if we can partner, or if ACTEP wants to take lead, I mean, however we want to structure this, as long as the field gets what's needed, I think that's what's most important.
Exactly, Renee. Thank you.
All right. Really quick from the people that stayed in the main room for the group that was really trying to imagine fieldwork, we had a lot of talk about MOUs and agreements, because going virtually is a little bit different category of risk than going in person. So in person, we talked about that CSU document that Renee kind of quickly talked about and had some slides for that will be on the website after this meeting. We talked about, will we need to adapt our waivers for in-person field work to talk about that COVID response? Some folks have MOUs and agreements and some are working without that. So we talked about the need perhaps for a field work handbook where students are told you can't take pictures of the Zoom chat. You have to behave this way, just like the in-person is kind of delineated in these kinds of field work handbooks or guidelines, however the programs do it differently. We also talked about when you're virtual, if you're in a breakout room without the teacher watching, or if you are, helping a teacher because you're like the aide who's hired / fieldwork student who's in the room opposite the teacher, if they come back socially distanced, that's going to need to be enumerated in some sort of agreement. There's a lot of liability and pieces that people are wondering about. And like Sharon shared earlier to the whole group, will we have this before these MOUs changed and signed off in time? We don't know. So I'd like to echo what Steve shared in the chat earlier, and Janice, both from ACTEP. I'm part of ACTEP as well, and so are others on the call. We're really waiting for that CSU guidance that ACTEP's going to be part of providing. But that kind of leads us into what Shannon's going to share next for our Fieldwork Fridays.
Yeah. We didn't have a huge discussion in our MOU breakout room, but I do want to reiterate that, again, with some of the best practices, I will tell you also reach out to your elementary school districts, because some of those districts have things in place for those volunteers currently. So a lot of my students have to go through that process on their campus as well, not just fingerprints and their TB test. So if they're completing work at those districts, they probably already have something in place, or they're working on having those things in place so that when they have students that are going to be attending or visitors attending virtually through Zoom, there's something that they have to put in place also. So those are things that they might already have available for you to utilize. So keep that in mind as well. Again, yeah, we're excited to continue this conversation with you all and just continue to share ideas and have some casual conversation with you. So we're going to be working towards our Fieldwork Fridays, where we can have some updates on a Zoom link. We have 2 planned, and then we'll continue to build as we go along. So July 17th at 9 a.m., Renee is going to be our special guest speaker for that. She's going to have some updates and some great information to share with us.
I don't even know what it's going to be until it is, though. I'm not going to plan it super ahead, because I'm going to talk to CDE like the days leading up, and CTC like right to it. So I'm going to just try and get like, what's happening on July 17th at 9 a.m.
Perfect. Awesome. Yes, and then we're excited to have Marquita come and speak with us as well on August 7th at 1 o'clock. So the times will change. We'll try to definitely schedule these on Fridays so that it is a little more casual with you all. What I will be doing, though, moving forward with our Fieldwork Fridays, is you'll be getting a direct Zoom link invitation via email from me so that you can just connect through that link. So go ahead and accept that invite if you would like to join us on those. Okay, it'll be a little different. You won't have to worry about an Eventbrite for this. So thank you all, and we're excited to have you be a continued part and to hear what's going on at your sites and get feedback from you all on your update. So next steps, do you want to cover that, Megan? Or did you want me to cover that?
Sure, either way. I have put some of the ACTEP information for membership and committees into the chat because we wanted to make sure you know about this resource and that this is exactly like Janice has just posted in the chat, I believe. We are trying to have these communities of practice start by the regions so that we can do exactly this. Also, that video observation link shared in the chat was shared at our first community of practice meeting and is still a resource we want to point out to you, and the sample MOUs shared last time. But we will have some new resources that were shared today uploaded soon to the website as well. And that's the possible scenarios where we outlined the 3 scenarios shared live today in addition to 2 others, as well as the CSU Provost memo and that sample fieldwork waiver with the COVID language on it. Our next meeting like this that's more formal is going to be July 31st at 10 to 12. And all information about these Friday, Fieldwork Fridays, and this next meeting will be emailed to everybody on the listserv. So we are going to end this meeting a pinch earlier than we said because we wanted to have a little more open conversation with the whole group. So those that need to go are able to go in a minute. I think we have our contact information on the next slide though. And so you can reach out to us. And if you have any questions that you want to direct towards one of the people that have been really guiding this community of practice as it stands now, but please do stay on and we can go back soon to that screen where everybody's there and kind of have a little informal chat.
Also, Megan, I think we go back one slide too.
Yes.
There is a reference to a video document, a video observation link, and I just want to clarify, we actually have 2 different documents. This link here was created by Rosemary Wren, I believe, from our TPP group. Jennifer Paris has created an early childhood, I'm trying to think, OTC, what is it called? Zero textbook cost, ZTC, yeah. Just like so there's 2 different online documents. So I apologize. I think we referenced this one to Jennifer, but this one's actually Rosemary. So I apologize for that little hiccup there, but we do have Jennifer's as well. And Jennifer's online, it's kind of a living document. We have it linked onto the TPP main website.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So we're so glad that everyone was here today. This will be recorded and posted so that it can be shared with anyone not able to come. We're going to now kind of continue on to an informal chat so we can.
Can you put on the website? Yes, thank you.
Yes, we can have it on this contact page for a moment, but please do let us know. We can start our discussion now for anyone that would wish to stay. So thank you and goodbye to anyone who's going now. We were so glad to see you today, and anyone that wishes to stay.
You know what? We haven't
specifically talked about. We got to save it. Just says file.
We haven't specifically talked about special education.
Yes.
I think we need to, or at least, or have a meeting or something, because I do believe a lot of special ed programs may be running in a face-to-face format, or at least portions of it. And so I'm not saying that that's a topic for today necessarily, but I do think that special ed is something that we need to bring up.
I think Sharon has a question.
Yeah.
Sharon, are you trying still to get that chat copy? Because at the end of the meeting, Shannon probably can help us to get a copy of that. And we know that you're interested to have it.
I am. I'm obsessed with why it's not there.
You know, Zoom likes to update exactly on the day you needed something.
It always does. Sharon, I will personally email it to you, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, I was having, and Zoom has done this to me a few times before too, where I try to copy out of the chat. I can see the chat, but it won't let me copy it. Yes. It'll let me click on the link. So I now have all those windows open to go back and copy down the links. So that was just weird. I don't know if anybody else is having that go on.
Yes, I have in the past.
Okay.
Is there a link anyone would like me to put right now that you can't see in the chat if you scroll back? Because I can copy and paste, and then you could do that clicking. But I think most of you can still scroll back from
There are
whenever
other
you
people-
joined, you can see what was posted since then. That's why there was a few repeats, because if a few people join late, sometimes I posted something again.
Let's say you have a Zoom account, but you didn't sign in before you joined this meeting. Could that be it? That only people who have an account can see the chat?
Oh, that's a
No.
good question, but I don't know.
Unless it's with the new update, Sharon.
I updated the other day. When was there an update?
This morning. It updated this
Today.
morning.
That's what our glitch was. There's other people asking for the chat, so maybe we can capture it and then put it up on the TPP website.
Sure.
And then people
just
can
then-
take it there if they want to.
Whoever's hosting should get an email or should get a file.
Right.
Yeah, we can clean it up and we want everyone to have everything. So don't worry. We know that we should get these cleaned up and to you.
And the TPP website, it's not the old one that we used to use. It's the one, I mean, I think I'm on the right one, but I never found any slides from this meeting.
Oh, it should have been under there, Sharon. It would have been, it's a teacherprepprograms.org. And
program, I believe.
Oh, sorry. Program.org, you're right. Here, I can get it and then put it up. Excuse me.
Teacher.
Sharon, you would go to the menu and then there's going to be an events and calendar tab on the left. And then you kind of move your mouse to this green box and you can pick the ECE community of practice, which I think met earlier today, or you can choose the EDU.
Actually, ECE did not meet earlier today. It was.
Oh, that was Peach. I apologize.
Posted. Yeah.
Okay, but we have everything posted under the meeting date, so you can see resources shared and links to the meetings and such.
Wait, am I in the right? Teacherprepprogram.org. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll find it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I put it in the chat. And Renee, were you going to show people where it is on the website or?
Oh, you know what? I have the website up right now if you want me to share.
Yeah,
Sure.
you're good.
Be
Share
good.
screen.
Okay, so you go to the website and then, sorry, if you go back to the main page, just down at the bottom, you can do events calendar. And you can go and then, so what is today, July 9th, we've got this, here's the Zoom and the information will be there. And then afterwards, Bobby will load it up here.
I got it. I didn't, you know what? I'm not being critical because I didn't make this website. I know good people did. I did not readily see that. So, and
I can mention another way. Renee, if you go back to the menu, you can go to events and calendar there.
Okay.
Is the word toggle? I want to say toggle over events and calendar and a green box will come up. So if you go to that menu on the left.
Wait.
I'm not, okay. You're going to the physical calendar.
Sorry, I'm going to the bottom menu.
Go to events and calendar and kind of hover.
Okay, there we go.
So when I go there, I go and I see something different. So you need to go over events and calendar. Why do we get different things? When I go,
okay.
Here, why don't I stop sharing, you share?
That is so weird that we're on the same, this is not good news.
Well,
We're on the
that's
same
what I see,
website.
No,
Okay.
mine is displaying differently there as well. It's weird.
So it says one participant can share at a time. Let me see if I can share really quick then.
Oh, see, okay. You know what? I found it on the page.
Okay, are you seeing my CCC TPP page?
Yep.
So I go to events and calendar and I kind of hover and then I see the ECE and EDU, communities of practice. And when I click there after events and calendar and go to that section in that green kind of rectangle, that's where I can see the different events. So here's the EDU, you scroll down and it's the videos and materials. So there's the meeting info and then you can see the discussions. I think they've captured that. And then all our documents like the MOUs and stuff, soon we're gonna go and make sure everything's up from the Fieldwork MOU sample shared last time to the new documents from the CSU shared this time. So
we ended up having so many ECE documents that we ended up creating a separate ECE website that we're now linking to the TPP
Oh, wow.
site. I'm gonna show it real quick if you don't mind. Okay, let me see. Are you guys seeing my screen okay? ECE Faculty Collective. Okay, this literally has come out from the early childhood community of practice. Rachel, who so graciously has put this together herself, which if you scroll through this, ECE Faculty Collective at weebly.com, you can't even imagine the amount of different resources that are available on here. It is unbelievable. She has offered to do this for EDU as well. If we want to have an EDU faculty collective or some sort of link on this page where it's the ECE and EDU faculty collective, and then we just link it from the TPP site, because I know things can get buried within a site. And so it's like, I don't want people to not be able to find it on the one. So we thought about keeping it where it is on the one and then also adding this in case people would want it here too. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that would be really smart to cross-reference them because there is so much overlap between the two fields. It's silly to keep having separate places, I think.
Yeah, it's nice too because Rachel.
Some faculty teach both.
Yes, totally.
There are faculty that teach in both areas, so it'd be nice to have some cross references. I think with the TPP site, it depends if you're on a Mac or not, and they're also the browser you're using.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
It's a little squirrely.
Talk to Rachel about including EDU on that site because she was open to it. She sent me a text about it late one night, so I know she's open to it. Because that's what we do, is we text about the COP late at night. Just so you know.
Are there any burning questions that anyone has remaining that you would like to ask while we're all together?
How's everybody holding up?
Don't ask.
I'm gonna stop recording.
Overwhelmed.
Okay.
I don't know what to say.
Thank you.